Hello and welcome to episode number 127 of James Bond Radio. My name is Tom Sears and I'm joined by a little bit of a sniffly, a little bit of a poorly, Mr. Chris Wright. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing not bad, Tom. I don't know if you can tell by the sound of my voice, but maybe slightly different to normal.
Absolutely,
but not bad.
Man. You've got me jet lagging over here and you've got you probably jet lagging as well. And tell the people why you're a bit poorly.
Well, I've just come back from a 3-week hiking trip to Nepal, which is an absolutely epic place, and Bond definitely has to go there. I went to Kathmandu, which I think it reminded me quite a bit of Bangkok. It's sort of just chaos everywhere, you know, traffic and noise and sound and smell. And I think that would be really cool for some sort of foot chase or something. And then went up into the Himalayas and went up to Everest base camp, not to the very top of Everest, but I went.
You disappoint me,
high.
Mr. Bond.
maybe in a year or two, perhaps. Who knows? But it was awesome, and again, the scenery, man, the scenery. I've just not seen anything like it before. You know, I've been to the Alps and various snowy places before, but Himalayas is just second to none for sort of awe-inspiring. You wake up in the morning and you're just like, whoa, that is pretty epic.
I can imagine.
And again, really Bondian as well. I mean, I'd love to see Bond get out there at some point.
Bit of high time to kill action going on, absolutely.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you say you didn't get to the top, but the trek to where you went to was long enough in itself, wasn't it? You were literally just walking through the wilderness for ages, weren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was like a 12-day sort of trek. We had a couple of acclimatization days where you have to basically, well, even then we still sort of was hiking up and down. And one of it was a 4 a.m. start. And you wake up and you're freezing cold. You can see your breath. You're lying in your bed. You can see your breath. Everything outside of your duvet or your sleeping bag is like minus whatever. Yeah. And you're just like, oh my God. But then once you get up and running, also you get a bit of a killer headache from the altitude. I wasn't sort of sick, but you do suffer, you know, it's not easy going at all. And, but then we ended up, that was the highest peak we went to, and that was about 5,565 meters, something like that. Good
Lord.
And again, you get up to the top, and it's so funny because, you know, obviously the higher you go, the less oxygen you have, the harder it is for your body to work. And sometimes you see it on TV and you think, oh God, it's not that hard, is it? And you get in that situation and every little footstep is like, you know, a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And particularly when it's sort of steep and rocky. But it was awesome. I always set myself these little challenges. So I'll see a spot up on the, you know, a bit further up, and I think, right, I'm not going to stop until I get there, and I'm going to power through, and then I'll get there and I'll collapse, and then I'll have a breather, and then I'll do it again. And I think that seems to work for me.
Do you know what this all sounds like, Chris? This sounds like when you're reading a bit of Fleming and Bond is either like swimming across to Mr. Big's island, or he's doing something physically taxing, and he's like, if I stop, I'm dead, and I've just got to keep going. And he plays little mental games with himself, doesn't he, where he's kind of like, I've just got to make it here, I've just got to make it here. And that's what you did as well, man. So kudos to you. You're one step away from Bond in your travels there.
Well, there we go. There we go.
Absolutely.
Happy days. So, and what about yourself? You've been away traveling, haven't you?
Yeah, man. I just popped back to Europe for a bit. Obviously, came back purely for the Casino Royale at the Albert Hall business and the Bond Stars event and all that kind of stuff. Just did a little bit back around and went to Spain and Barcelona, which I think would make an amazing Bond location, which you said a couple of years ago yourself when you went there. Back in Bali now, all settled in. But so what are we talking about today, Chris? I thought what we'd do is we'd have a big old catch up because there's been so much going on in the world of Bond since we last. Obviously, our last episode was the trailers of Bond, and then you and I were going away on our travels, and we're like, we just need to have a little break from JBR for a minute so we can actually just sort of do that. So what we're doing this week is just a big old catch up of all the Bondian related stuff that's happened in that break, which is a lot. We've had some news. There's going to be some speculation. And there's also obviously the events we went to, Albert Hall being one, Bond Stars being the other. And you only drive twice, the old JBR meetup and stuff going on. So we're just going to be having a big old Bondian chit chat today rather than talking about anything specific. So I guess before we crack on into the meat and potatoes, should we catch up with a bit of the Bond news, Chris?
Yes, let's do that. So, I mean, there's been like you said, we mentioned there'll be some speculation, which we'll chat about in a minute. I guess recently, starting off on a bit of a down note, unfortunately, Karin Dor, who played Helga Brandt, recently passed away. Again, like earlier this year, they seem to be falling. Like every time we did a podcast, there was like someone new to talk about, wasn't there? Unfortunately, so poor Karin obviously passed away a few weeks back. So it's another one. But I mean, it's just going to keep happening.
It is,
unfortunately,
like,
as we said before, which is a shame.
It's one of those things now. We're at that point, aren't we, where like the '60s was such a cultural explosion in every way, shape, and form. And those people who were popular and big in those days, you know, in their prime, they're just going to start, you know, it's just getting to the end of their run, unfortunately. And it's just going to keep happening. And it's going to be, it's horrible every time. But, you know, obviously, Roger being the big one for all of us Bond fans. But yeah, it's just going to happen, man. And it's really sad. But good old Helga, she was a good femme fatale, cut from the same mould as your favourite, I would say. Good old Fiona Volpe there. But did a banging job, absolutely.
Definitely, and also one of only 2 German Bond girls I can think of. I saw Ralph mention on the Facebook page. He thought it was the only one, but there was another German Bond girl I can think of, which was in Majesties. You know, obviously you've got the Bond girls from the different nationalities. Yeah. But aside from those 2, I don't know if there is another. Can you think of one off the top of your head?
There isn't any that leap to mind. No. Maybe there's an obvious one that we're missing, but yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, Daphne Deckers, I think her name is, Elliot Carver's PR girl. Initially, I thought she was German because obviously it's in Hamburg and everything, but she was, I think she was Dutch. So she didn't count in that case. But yeah. Anyway,
absolutely.
So that was interesting.
So, in a slightly happier news, Becoming Bond, the George Lazenby documentary, out on DVD now, which is good. And I actually watched that in the break, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, excellent. A lot of people say George is basically a bit of a story sort of teller in the sense that you're like, did that really happen? Is that exaggerated? Yeah. Blah 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 blah. I watched the film and I'm like, yeah, definitely. There's you know what I mean? He tells those stories and I feel like every time he tells them, they get a little bit more outlandish. But I thought it was really fun, man. I wasn't sure what to make of it when they said it was going to be like half interview, half like reenactments and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. What did you think?
Well, I did as well. And I've heard some people not slating it, but, you know, just not being enamored by it. But I think what it was doing was mirroring George's personality. Okay, like, you know, it wasn't told from an accurate point of view. It was told from a story point of view. So the characters you see weren't definitely Harry, Harry Saltzman or whatever. It was George's interpretation of that character. So, and you know, like we just said, he likes to sort of embellish a little bit. So it was more of, I mean, I think it succeeded in what it set out to do, and the feeling of it. What, you know, George is a cheeky chappy, and it definitely came across. And I think I think it worked. I did hear some people sort of say, "Oh, you know, it's not serious enough." I think some people sort of said, "Oh, and anything that's to do with Bond, everyone sees through rose-tinted specs and stuff like that." But I don't think this was bad at all. I mean, you know, it depends on what you were thinking. If you were looking for some hard-nosed, you know, newsworthy, accurate documentary, then you're not going to get that. But what you do get is something which is exactly like George is in person, sort of thing. And I think that's why it works. And I thought it was really, really great. I thought it was really well done.
I thoroughly enjoyed it myself. And it did get emotional at times as well when he was talking about his long-lost love and all that kind of stuff, and how he kind of screwed her over and he sort of sheds a tear there and stuff, which I thought was quite... I've never seen that side of him, really. So it was kind of, you know, it was kind of interesting to see. I mean, I imagine a fair few of those stories had a hefty helping of the old bullshit in there, but at the same time, there was a glimpse of the real George underneath as well, which I thought was nice. I wonder what Sheila thought. Have we heard from Sheila yet?
Oh, I'm sure she loved it. I'm pretty sure she loved it. And I was just wondering whether, you know, obviously final scene in Majesties, George, he drew a tear on the cut that wasn't used.
Indeed.
I wonder if he thought of that particular woman that he was referring to to bring on that emotion. Who
Good
knows,
point.
maybe.
Who knows? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So if you haven't seen Becoming Bond yet, make sure you go and grab a copy on DVD because it's bloody good. Very enjoyable. So I think it's time we tackle the big, hairy subject of Bond 25, Chris. I've got some thoughts. Yes. I'm pretty sure you've got some thoughts. You've had a lot of time to mull things over while you've been climbing up a mountain. So first things first, the headline is Christoph Waltz says he's not coming back for Bond 25. Now I'm going to reel off the sort of the statement and all that kind of stuff. Let's reel that off and then let's have a little chat about it. So Christoph Waltz confirms he is not returning for Bond 25. Speaking on the red carpet at the Festa del Cinema di Roma on Thursday, 26th of October, Waltz confirmed to Italian movie news site Talkie Movie that he would not be coming back. No, I'm sorry, he said when asked about reprising his role as Blofeld. I'm really sad, but that's the tradition, that there is a new name. Sorry, I would have liked to. What Waltz may be referring to is the fact that no actor has ever played Blofeld more than once when the character is the lead villain in a Bond film. But Waltz confirming that he would not be coming back as Blofeld could mean one of two things. The character, whom Bond allowed to be arrested rather than killed at the end of Spectre, will be played by a different actor in Bond 25, or Blofeld himself will not be appearing in the new film and a different central villain will be used instead. So, what do you think about that? First of all, do you think that means there's no Blofeld at all? Or do you think that means we're going to have a different interpretation of Blofeld?
Yeah, well, there's a little bit inside me which thinks, well, maybe is this just smoke and mirrors? Could he still come back? I mean, I'm not 100% certain that he isn't coming back, even if it might only be for a small bit. I don't know.
He did say he was Hans Oberhauser for quite a long time, didn't he? So he does have a track record of being a little bit sneaky with that stuff.
Yes.
I must admit, what I'm confused about is I'm really sad, but that's the tradition. And I feel like he's sort of referring to the fact that there's a different villain in each film. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's referring to the fact that there's a different Blofeld actor in each film. I don't know. That just doesn't feel like that's what he's saying. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting what to make. So if he definitely doesn't come back, I mean, you know, if this is Daniel's last film or last one but two, you know, however many they shoot, it just wouldn't make sense, would it? It wouldn't make sense if there's nothing relating to Blofeld whatsoever in 125.
Yeah.
I mean, unless then suddenly he was brought back for the guy to follow. I don't know. It seems very strange to me.
It does seem very strange, doesn't it? With all the sort of the linking back of all of Daniel's run so far, linking into Blofeld, how they've sort of woven all those together. Yeah. If they just had a random villain in it, and it was not a Blofeld-related thing at all, I do think that would be very strange. But at the same time, they kind of did that before with all the setup for Quantum, and then Silver was just completely unrelated, you know, before they obviously rethought that. But like,
retconned it.
That seems, I don't know, it's not something they haven't done before. There was all that setup with Quantum and then no payoff in Skyfall, which I have to say was part of the reason why I was a bit disappointed in Skyfall, because I really wanted that story to pay off. So I don't know. What do you make of it? If you could put a bet down, would you say Bond 25 would feature a Blofeld related story, or would you say it won't feature one?
I think it will. I think it has to, in a way. Even if like the character, okay, so they could either have it that he's only in it for a brief amount of time, but he's not the main villain, or maybe his name is mentioned, but you don't see him, although that would just be a bit of a cop-out, in my opinion. But, you know, you could have the equivalent of your Largo, your number two, who's sort of controlling things for this film with Blofeld in the background. But then I think that would only work if Daniel did two. And then there's his last one, the second one, would then have Blofeld in it. But if he's only doing one, I don't know, you see.
I suppose it depends. I feel like you could do that where there's a number two and Blofeld is pulling the strings from prison, Hannibal Lecter style. You know, he's still in control even though he's in jail. And then somebody else is like the main villain for that piece. And I suppose that would be extra sort of frustrating because Bond couldn't get to him to kill him because there he is in prison. So there is that side of things as well. But I don't know. This really is a move that's maybe go, That's a surprise to me. That is one of the things he did say in an interview last year. He said, "I cannot claim that I've really nailed Blofeld. Overall, it held water and was okay, but it wasn't what I've been looking for. I was searching for more inspiration. An actor can only be really good when there are shared possibilities." What do you think that means?
That's interesting, isn't it? Well, I think that was probably in response to certain critiques of the film. I imagine if it was glowing praise, he wouldn't have even said that. I think because some people weren't sure, particularly the last third of the film, I think that's kind of made him think and come out with something like that. Overall, it held water and it was okay, but it wasn't what I've been looking for. See, I mean...
That's almost a diss, isn't it? That's almost like, they didn't give me enough to work with. I was searching for more inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the script, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the script saying that it's... it wasn't up to par really. But then if you think about back to certain things, the meeting scene in Spectre is one of the best scenes in the whole series. It is fantastic. Yeah. And like obviously that's him playing with the character. He doesn't have many lines, does he? But that's him infusing that character with this sort of dark menace, which he does brilliantly. Yeah. But I think when you get towards the end, I mean, the torture chair divides opinion, but then everything after that with the helicopter and stuff, it didn't quite.
I think, do you know what I suspect? I suspect Blofeld might be at his most powerful and most striking when you don't see him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If he's always behind the scenes, like he was in the old school films where you just see him behind a screen or whatever, or in shadow. And if that meeting scene in Spectre is the dog's bollocks, man. That is, I feel like he proper nailed that in the sense that you remember that bit where he kind of sits down and the microphone's a little bit far away and he just turns his head. He almost imperceptibly turns his head and the assistant comes up and sorts it out. And it's just like he just oozes menace. For a smaller man, he just oozes menace in that scene. I think he absolutely nailed that. Absolutely, yeah. And again, I like that scene with the meteorite as well, where he kind of looms up out of the darkness. I think that's a banger. Yeah. That's really good. I'd say everybody was raving about Silver's entrance when he does the long walk and all the kind of all that stuff and tells a story. I feel like that was Blofeld's version of that, and I feel like that was equally as good as Silver's entrance. That was I've done it again. I feel that was a banger. The way he just sort of he's not there, and all of a sudden he just looms out of the darkness. I thought was really creepy. But again, like it's been done to death with the what was wrong with Spectre, what was right with Spectre, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he definitely shouldn't have been arrested at the end. I feel like we said before, didn't we? Like when Bond shoots down his helicopter, he looks worried, and I feel like Blofeld should never look worried. He should always be under control, But interesting. So he felt like he didn't nail it, and I feel like he deserves another stab at that to really like nail it in. But then, what do you think about the thought that perhaps they're scrapping Blofeld because nobody really liked the whole stepbrother thing? Yeah,
I think you're probably right. Actually, I mean, that aspect of it didn't go down well at all. But it does. The thing is, it does feel like a missed opportunity if there's nothing related to it in Bond 25. Yeah. I guess what do? Do they just put it under the carpet and then roll it out in a couple of years' time? In 5-10 years' time with the next guy or what? Who
knows?
It's a stranger world, isn't it?
It is, man.
World,
it's the way it works. But my worry is, man, if they don't tackle Blofeld next time, my worry is that it'll be another one of those Blofeld missed opportunities where there's no real payoff. Do you know what I mean? There's all this build up. If you think of all the Connery movies through to Lazenby, the ultimate sort of build up, and then you had this really weak thing with Diamonds Are Forever, which that was fun in its own context, but as the climax to that whole build up over a decade, you know what I mean? It just that just wasn't what we were looking for, and then dropping him down a chimney and all that kind of stuff. It's like we need that solid Blofeld story, and fucking Garden of Death, man. You only live twice. It's sitting there ripe. It's sitting there ripe, and there's no better time to do it than at Bond 25. It would be so perfect. So it's going to be interesting, man. The more stuff that kind of trickles out over the coming months and stuff will be intriguing. But what else has been going on then, dude?
Okay, so in other sort of Bond 25 news, Denny Villeneuve, who was one of the front runners, has basically said that he hasn't said per se, but he's definitely committed to filming Dune as his next film. So it is unlikely that he's going to helm Bond 25, just in terms of the time. It's a major film, lots of development and everything like that. He actually said, he told the playlist, the thing is, I don't know about that when referring to Bond 25. But listen, Daniel Craig is a very inspiring actor, and I had some contact. And the thing is that I'm busy right now doing Dune. But I will say, to have the privilege to work with him, it would be a dream. I would love to work with Daniel, and a Bond movie for me would be a treat. It's a matter of timing, I guess. So he's obviously a fan. He's obviously interested. He would do an absolute bang-up job, no doubt about it. He's obviously sort of mates with Daniel as well. They get on. Hopefully it will happen in the future. And although it doesn't 100% rule him out of Bond 25, I think it's quite slim, the chances of him actually doing it now.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one at this stage of the game, isn't it? Because everybody wants to reinvent Bond, don't they? And I feel like if this was a new actor stepping in, everybody would be, they'd be chomping at the bit for it. Your Chris Nolans, and that will be banging down the door to have that opportunity to reinvent Bond in their way. But when it's clearly the last film of a Bond actor, I feel like that's one most people wouldn't really want to touch as much. Do you know what I mean?
It's tricky.
So I suppose something that could potentially be so huge as a Dune remake, which I'd not seen it, but I heard the original. I heard the book is supposed to be amazing, and that the film was really shit. And then this is the chance to do it right. So I feel like that's an op. Rather than do Daniel's fifth Bond, doing Dune for his sake makes more sense, doesn't it, as a director, because that could really catapult him if it's done well. So I guess that's why he's obviously chosen to go that way. So if it's not him, then who gets your vote?
Well, the other two in the supposed front runners was Yann Demange, who did 71. That's the only film that I've seen him do, and that was fantastic. Sort of set in Northern Ireland, really, really good. Sort of tent scenes and foot chase scenes and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I've got my favourites now, and they are Villeneuve, they are Nolan. Martin Campbell, I'd love to see him come back. If there's anyone that you need to step in to fill the to do the job, he'd do a bang up job no matter what. So I don't know. I'm just a bit sort of. Sometimes, like in the lead up to Spectre, you'd have some ideas about the film, and I reckon at least 50% of them were realised, maybe even more. We'd sort of think, Christoph Waltz, he's definitely got to be Blofeld, and eventually, obviously, it turned out that way, and certain members of the crew as well. But I think with this one, it just seems to be so out there in terms of what could happen, in terms of the story, the director, the script. I just can't put a finger on anything. I'm normally quite clued up on this sort of thing, but this one, I've just got no idea, Tom.
Absolutely.
It's really strange.
It is a tough one, isn't it? Because I mean, as soon as the first little trickle of news was they're looking for a henchman, like a classic style henchman, immediately your brain goes off, whoa, that's cool. And then as soon as Christoph Waltz gets cast, immediately you think he's got to be Blofeld. And then as soon as they say, we're just going to, unleash the name of this film, it's going to be called Spectre. You've got a framework to work with there, don't you? Like, oh my God, they're doing it. Do you know what I mean? And then there's so many things to speculate about and all that kind of stuff, and throwbacks to the past and new things to do with it and all that kind of stuff. With this, we don't even know if they're continuing that story. B, we don't know. All we know at this point is that Daniel's going to be James Bond, and that's really it, isn't it? Really, in terms of where it might go.
You've got the whole potential Blofeld side of things, but you've also got the Madeleine side of things. And if they did Bond 25 without any reference whatsoever to either Blofeld or Madeleine, would that work or not? And I don't know. Well, I honestly don't know.
On that sort of train of thoughts, good old Monica Bellucci, there's been rumours that she might be back for Bond 25, right? Now, she was asked by the Hollywood Reporter, I think it was, whether she'd be returning for Bond 25, and she said, I can't say anything about that. Interesting. Right. She said, being in Bond was an amazing experience, and I loved working with Daniel Craig. He was an amazing partner, so respectful. Now, that is interesting.
Did she emphasise the "so" when she saying that?
Probably.
He's so respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that I feel like most people would be down for that. Don't you think? What do you think about Monica coming back?
Definitely. I mean, for several reasons, but her character, again, that could expand into potential villain. She could be like a villainess. You don't know.
Well, do you know what,
there's
man?
that potential side to Irma Bunt or whatever it might be.
Here's a thought, right? If they weren't going down a Blofeld route, a Blofeldian route, imagine this for a storyline, right? Monica is involved in some way. Maybe Bond, falls in love with her a little bit, and then we get an Electra King style twist at the end where she lures him. The whole thing was to lure him into a trap, like from Rush with Love, like to lure him into a trap to avenge her dead husband. Now that could be quite an interesting angle. I feel like everybody wanted more from Monica Bellucci from Spectre, and it was only a small part, so they only got a little glimpse. Yeah. But what a glimpse it was, Chris! It has to be said. I feel like there's definite potential there, and I feel like that could work, man. I don't know. What do you? Does that get the thumbs up from you?
That also the question. Are you going to be returning to Bond 25? I can't say anything about that. That's like, if you weren't going to be in it, would you just say no?
Yeah.
Or what, or are you still under Eon guidelines to not even say no because that will give a hint that you might, that they're not using that character. So I think there's a strong chance she's going to return, Lucia Sciarra, and I'd be down for that, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of those things that because when you look at what people liked about Spectre, generally speaking, in terms of the wider world, I feel like everybody was very positive about Monica Bellucci and was disappointed that they didn't get to see more. So from a purely a standpoint of you're hired to write Bond 25, right? What do we do? Maybe we should really tie it into the previous four. So let's maybe take some bits out of Spectre that people did like and use that as a framework. So you never know. I feel like that could be a way forward. She would definitely get my thumbs up for sure as maybe the main Bond girl this time. But time will tell, man. So interesting distribution partner news as well, Chris. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so it's been interesting actually. So MGM has got a distribution deal with Annapurna. Now, initially, it was for domestic releases of films, but not related to Bond 25. But since then, there has been a deal that's been confirmed, or at least is being finalised, whereby Annapurna and MGM have agreed distribution for domestic, which counts as US and Canada releases of Bond 25. So that still leaves, obviously, international distribution. And the other thing about Annapurna as well is it's female run, so the head of it is female, and we know a woman, indeed, and we know how Barbara, she's obviously very pro sort of feminine within the world of film and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
pro females, and rightly so. So I think that has probably helped the link, because previously it was Amy Pascal at Sony and they had that good relationship. She was obviously sacked after the leak, and then after that then Annapurna sort of come in and stepped in. So that's just for domestic, but it's quite foreseeable that they'd obviously do international distribution as well, but who knows.
Now, Chris, what are we now? We're looking at the end of 2017. We're like
2 years, pretty much.
We're looking at
6
weeks from the end of 2017, and I feel like once 2018 is here and we're in the springtime, like production has to start ramping up a little bit. Don't we? All that sort of stuff is going to have to start creeping through. We're going to have to get stars on board, directors on board, all of that stuff, and all the planets have to line up. So it's going to be knowing where we are now, because I know a lot of JBR listeners like to go back and listen to the pre-Spectre episodes and listen to like, what are we talking about and how it eventually played out. I feel like we're in that period of darkness right now where we're just grasping at straws, wondering what the hell is going on. And then, this time next year we'll be way more in the know. Do you know what I mean? They'll probably, this time next year, maybe they'll be weeks away from shooting, and then the games will begin. But exciting times. Righty-ho then. So before we crack on into the main part of today's episode, make sure you come and follow us on Facebook. So just put James Bond Radio into the search box and you will find us. Click like and away you go. A wonderful little community going on over there, isn't there, Chris?
It's beautiful.
Lovely. Come and follow us on Twitter, which again is just at James Bond Radio. You can follow us on Periscope too for live chats and the back catalogue of live streaming videos from the meetups at Pinewood and all that kind of stuff. That's always good. Download that onto your phone. You can come to jamesbondradio.com, which has loads of blog posts and all that kind of stuff and everything James Bond Radio over there, which is great. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Just go to the iTunes store, type in James Bond Radio and hit subscribe, because that's always good, because when you subscribe and you download episodes through iTunes, we rank higher in the charts and we attract more listeners, don't we, Chris? Absolutely. He's having a swig of water.
And we like that.
Also, follow us on Instagram, which is at James Bond Podcast. That's a little bit different for you. That's run every day by good old B-Dobs himself, Brian Dobson, who many of you will know, with some rather lovely pictures. And he's currently showing a series of photos from a lot of the JBR meetups, which have been really good. How can you help the JBR cause? You can go to the website, jamesbondradio.com, and click the donate link over there. That's always appreciated, but never expected. You can spread the word about JBR on social media, repost our posts, and spread them around and all that kind of stuff. Get involved on Bond forums and start the conversation about JBR, because good old-fashioned word of mouth is the best way for us to find new listeners. And of course, last but not least, you can leave a SpeakPipe message, a voicemail, over on jamesbondradio.com, where you can send in a quote or just a random message telling us what you think about JBR or James Bond in general, or any of your thoughts. You can leave a trivia question, whatever it is you like. Just leave us a message and make sure you speak up nice and loud and clear. And if you do send in a trivia question or a quote, make sure you send in 2 messages, one with a question in, one with the answer in. So we when we finally get around to playing it, we'll know whether we were right or wrong. So there we go. Good God, I need a nap after that, Chris. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right.
So next up then, we have a listener trivia question, Chris. Are you excited for this?
Mm-hmm. I am. It's been a long time. And this is from Mr. Edgar Chaput.
Hello, James Bond Radio. Tom, Chris, as always, the delightful listeners. This is Edgar Chaput in Montreal, Station C, Canada. It's the dead of winter. I'm looking outside my window now. Most of the stereotypes concerning Canadian winters apply. I figured maybe give you a quiz question with a little bit of home cooking. So here we go. What is the Canadian connection to The Spy Who Loved Me, the film? And I'm not talking about the fact that Miss Moneypenny, Lois Maxwell, was born in Ontario. It's something else. So what is the Canadian connection to The Spy Who Loved Me, the film? Anyways, take care, guys. Bye.
So, there we have it. What's the Canadian connection to The Spy Who Loved Me? Have you got any thoughts on that, Chris?
Interesting. I think I might do.
Indeed. So, absolutely. He's saying not Lois Maxwell being born in Canada, wherever that is, I don't know. But it's not that, it's something else. And I think we both have a sneaky suspicion what that is. But nice one, Edgar. Thank you for that. So, let's have a little bit of JBR theme tune, and then we'll crack on.
My name's Bond. James Bond. Bond. James. Bond, what do you think you're doing? Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007. Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Okay then, so Chris, back at the end of the summer when they announced or towards the end of the summer, I should say, when they announced the whole Casino Royale at the Royal Albert Hall live with David Arnold, I thought to myself, I can't miss this. I've missed so many of the JBR meetups over the years, being over here in the Far East, that I thought this one I would be so distraught. I'm going to have to do it. So I booked my tickets, booked my flights and thought, fuck it, I'm getting involved. And came back, especially for that. And obviously the weekend before that was the Bond Stars as well. So that lined up nicely. So I managed to make it along to those two things. But the weekend before that, I was a few days late for, which was You Only Drive Twice, which was the JBR meetup of the century. So tell me about it, Chris. What happened? What went down? What did I miss?
Okay, so this was an absolute cracking one, organised by the brilliant Mr. Darren Noble. Okay, so we rocked up at our first meeting point. he had a load of balloons with spionum on them, so we could see him from like 8 miles away, which was great. And not only that, they had a good use as well. So we basically got each balloon and in our car basically tied it to the car. So as we were driving in convoy from location to location, you could obviously sort of see what was going on. And they were kind of tied out the window. And I think at one point people were getting quite excited because they were trying to point at something. And so they wound down the window to point at something, and the balloon just went and just flew up. But it was still good. So we visited quite a few locations west of the capital. We went to, in fact, Raisbury Lake was superb. So this is the part where the Rolls Royce from A View to a Kill was pushed into the water. It's got a massive billboard sort of saying Bond was here, View to a Kill, pictures from the film, and that was great. So we went there. We saw the Carver Media Group HQ, which was all right. It's a bit bland without all the without all the lights.
Shit. Yeah.
It was a little bit, but at least we were there. I tell you what was quite cool: the oil tanks from the pre-titles of Goldfinger.
Oh, so mate, I saw those. Right? I saw those, and I was very excited because you know what I like? I enjoy locations that look pretty much identical to what they did back in the day. And those oil tanks, man, where he gets the C4 out and all that business, they look pretty much identical, didn't they?
It's so good. And we got really close. We ended up having to go to this football pitch, and there was like a little fence between us and the tanks, but they had the little the little round bits at the bottom that he used to get in, and the entranceway and all that sort of stuff. And it that's Goldfinger, man. It's classic Bond. So that was fantastic.
So could you see the exact? Could you work out which was the exact tank that you did?
There's loads of them. There's about like maybe 14, 15, 16 of them or something. But we spotted one which looked very similar. Well, they all did, but we spotted one. We're like, that's the one. It's got to be the one. It's
tough, isn't it, man? Because there's the age factor that it was a long time ago, and you don't know what the surrounding area has changed. But it's tough, isn't it? Because I remember when I went to the Diamonds Are Forever location just outside of Vegas, where all the urns were, where Bond goes to pick up the urn and he gets smacked over the back of the head by Winton Kid. And I'm walking along there and you see all the little places where those little sort of cubby holes would have been, but you can't quite work out what the exact one would be. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of frustrating because it's like, I want to know, but then at the same time, it's there somewhere. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And you've got to be respectful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a few other places. We went to outside Pinewood, the old school gates and stuff like that, which was great. We went for lunch at a pub which had loads of pictures on the wall from the Bond novels, and had pictures of Fleming. So that was a great find. That was called the Black Horse, that one. We went to Stoke Park. And
so what was the connection there with the Black Horse? How come all the Bond novels were all over the wall?
Well, I'll have to ask Darren, actually. I think it was just we were searching for sort of places to have lunch that would work within the route, and this one just happened to have Bond pictures. I'll have to double check with Darren on that, but I mean, it was awesome.
Nice.
So we went to Stoke Park, man. I've only been there maybe 2 or 3 times, but every time you just drive up that. Have you been there yet? I want to see you there, man. No. Next time we are going there. Right. So you drive up the driveway, you can see the clubhouse in the distance. The sun suddenly came out, and it's epic. You drive past, obviously, the Gulf. We parked up. And we had a couple of special things actually this time. We were able to. We went into the pro shop first of all, and they had this little putting green, and there were some gold bars there. And so we got one of the gold bars, put it next to the putting, next to the golf hole, and we were like trying to get it in. That was awesome. And then we went to the members section, which is sort of like an underground type place, and it has got a whole corridor of like Bond photos from the filming of Goldfinger and Tomorrow Never Dies as well. And that was epic because it's like photos you just wouldn't see anywhere else. That was really, really cool. And then after that, we went to St. Giles Church, the little church from Fiore's only pre-titles.
Absolutely, yeah.
And decided to do a little bit of reenactment, which hopefully everyone who's listening has seen that.
I have to say, have we got that up on our YouTube channel yet, or was that just up on Facebook?
It's on Facebook, but what I was thinking was, actually, I was going to talk to you about it, but I'll speak to you about it now, is we should have a tab on our website for all our little video reenactments.
Absolutely.
Of the remake. So we'll stick that on there soon as well.
So for anyone who hasn't seen that, basically everybody remade the pre-title sequence to Fiore's only shot for shot, not unlike the brief Living Daylights one that you guys did last year with the with the old milkman attack. And it's what you've done this time. I remember last time watching the Living Daylights one, and of course that was very brief. It was milkman Nikros comes up, bit of played masterfully by you, it must be said. Bit of strangle, pull him over the wall, and then away he goes. And it was like just a nice little snippet. This one, you boys have taken it to the next level. There's some genuine filmmaking skill and special effects and God knows what going on here, man. And it is proper amazing. So if you haven't seen it, we'll by the time this episode comes out, we'll wangle something where it's easily accessible through the website or something, or in the post of this episode where you can watch it, because it's brilliant. And that was starring Julian O'Hare and Brian Dobson, if I remember correctly.
It was, as Sir Roger and the Vicar. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was an absolute cracking event. And then that evening, speaking of Julian O'Hare, he has this brilliant James Bond man cave back at his place. Nice. So we all rocked up there. GoldenEye on the arcade machine, Tommy. You'd love it. Superb, so good. And then the next day we went to Shrublands from Thunderball, which looks exactly the same apart from the colouring of the building. And it's this dodgy, sort of sickly, creamy orange colour, which is a real shame because the original looked fantastic. And then we went to Thames Lawn, M's house from Majesty. So the gate is there, but the actual quarterdeck house burnt down years ago. Yeah. But when we got there, we rocked up. The gate was open, so I drove in through the gate. I don't think you're meant to, because it's like residences. So I was like, oh, fuck that. Yeah. So I just drove in through the gate, pretending for a minute that I was Bond, and then reversed back out again.
And wasn't in there with his butterflies, was he?
No, he wasn't, unfortunately. But what's really cool is there's a pub, just a couple of doors up from Thames Lawn, and it's called the Two Brewers. Now, this pub is actually seen in Majesty's back in '69. You see George coming along, you see Bond coming along in his DBS, and he passes this pub with a sign, the Two Brewers, and it's still there today. So we were like, well, that's where we went for lunch on the Sunday. We had some nice food and a couple of beers, and it was great that it was this, the same pub from the film. Awesome. Really, really enjoyed that. That's somewhere else we'll have to go next time you're over. Then we went back to White Pond Farm and we did a few photos of the Necros sort of strangling again, and that was good. And then we finished off at Stoner Park, and that's mate, I love this place. So interestingly, the owner of the house sort of rocked up while we were there, and he came to have a chat to us. Now, he was there during filming of The Living Daylights. I think he said he was about 12 or something like that. Right. And he remembered John Glenn and all the camera crews and everything like that. So he was telling us, from a little boy's perspective, what he remembered about it all, and the police turning up and all this sort of stuff, and the explosions and stuff. So that was really cool to hear from him. Yeah, really, really nice guy as well. And obviously the location is picture perfect.
That's another one that looks exactly the same. That whole Bladen safe house sequence, Nikros defecting back or whatever. That just all those photos you boys took. It's just like you're looking at the film, isn't it? Still, which is wicked. As well as that little lane does with the Nikros scene happens. Like that little lane looks exactly the same. The house and everything is pretty much identical, isn't it?
And you've got to give props to the owners of that farmhouse because we went there last year and they said, yeah, no, that's fine. You can do your little bit of filming, and we did it again this year. And they must look out their window watching someone being strangled, pulled over a wall, thinking, what the hell are they doing? But I'm sure that they obviously have some idea. But I mean, big shout out to them as well for letting us do that.
Yeah, wicked.
It's a lot of fun.
Cool stuff. So that was that weekend. Doesn't sound very good at all, Chris. I'm glad I didn't make it in the end. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't make it, actually. In fact, did you see that little video I did of you?
Oh, that was wicked. And with, there was, I suppose nobody would have seen it, would that? It was you lobbing a milk bottle into the Bladen safe house and it exploding thanks to Dan Gale and his amazing editing and special effects and stuff. That was we'll have to stick that up online for everyone to see. But that was wicked. So weekend number 2 then was, of course, Bond Stars at Pinewood, which had the title of Classic Bond this year, and had we managed to watch You Only Live Twice on the big screen at the John Barry Theatre, which was The Dog's Banana. What else happened? Talk to me.
So so this one, obviously the 50th anniversary celebration of You Only Live Twice. So we rocked up and had a couple of drinks. Obviously, met a few people who we knew. Brian Dobson was there, which is great, and quite a few of the listeners we sort of met, and some we hadn't seen before, and they came over and said hi, which was really nice. And obviously we got to chat to a few of them. There were loads of Bond alumni there as well, so they have like a room to the just off the dining room where they're sort of selling photos, autographs, books, all Bond memorabilia, all that sort of stuff. So we got to catch up with a few people who Norman, obviously we had a good chat with him and good catch up with him, didn't we? And one or two others as well. And then so we went to the John Barry Theatre, and it was a 4K version of it, wasn't it, of the negative? So it looked so crisp, and the sound on it was immense. It really sounded like amazing. Every tiny little sound effect.
It was amazing, wasn't it? So basically, they basically led us through. This was my first time at the John Barry Theatre. Actually, I'd never actually been to that bit before, and they said, "Listen, we're going to lead you through now. If any of you goes missing and starts hunting around the studios and stuff, you're going to be expelled immediately. So don't do it." But as you're walking through, you see, like, obviously posters all over the walls and all the corridors of Pinewood, and there is that magical feeling, isn't there, when you walk around Pinewood that just never gets old. I think it's my third time there now, and it's just every time there's just like a little twinge of excitement. And then we walked past a certain door that was Sir Roger Moore's office. Bless him. It had Gareth's name on it, Gareth Owen, obviously, and Sir Roger Moore written. I was like, oh man, that's his office in there. And then obviously went through to the cinema itself, and it's the business, isn't it, man? It's like if you owned a massive, humongous mansion and you wanted a cinema on your land, that's what you would have, isn't it? You'd have the John Barry Theatre in the garden or something, wouldn't you?
Definitely. And there was that big picture of Daniel Craig from Spectre, sort of just outside the theatre on the wall, which was great.
With his goggles on.
With his goggles on, yeah. And so it was good. So they brought some of the alumni from the film to the front, and I had a chat with them, a bit of a Q&A initially, didn't they? Which was really nice. And then obviously we got to watch the film. And then afterwards we went back and had a spot of lunch back in the Pinewood dining room. Now there was some sort of plus points and negative points. The only negative points this time around, there was the Bake Off was on or something like that. So normally there's like the garden tours, and in fact we did sort of our own one last year, didn't we? Had a little wander around, but we couldn't do the proper yeah tour this time, which was a bit of a shame, for several reasons. But I mean, it was still just a quality experience.
Do you know what? The first year I went there, which was the Living Daylights one, I think that might have been the first year where Star Wars were in residence. So you didn't get the tour around Goldfinger Avenue, but you still got the gardens and all that kind of stuff, which was great. I was still way happy with that. But then obviously Star Wars are still there, so you still can't do that tour. But then obviously the Bake Off were in the garden, so we couldn't go through and do the gardens tour. But so it's Bond's getting a little bit crowded around there lately. I feel like they need to boot out Star Wars, get rid of the Bake Off, and let us in.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Too right. But after lunch, there was quite an interesting thing where they have this sort of quiz, don't they? They give the quiz papers.
I remember it well.
Your 20 questions or your 21 questions,
yes.
And JBR was pretty well represented, weren't we?
Yeah, man. So the way it works is they hand out like quiz papers on all the tables for everybody. You fill those in, then you hand those in after lunch, and then the top three scorers have to sort of go head to head up on stage. And when they called it out, they called out my name, they called out Brian Dobson's name, and then another kid whose name I forget, sadly. But you didn't actually give your paper in, did you? You didn't actually hand it in, which I'm pretty sure if you had have handed it in, it would have the competition would have got a lot stronger. But so basically what it was is the kid that went up, he went up first, and it was like another 20 questions, I think it was, and basically what had happened is good old AJ had filled out this kid's questionnaire for him and handed it in. and the kid didn't really know a whole lot about Bond. And I think he got 1 out of 20. Is that right? I think he got one right.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I felt so sorry for him when he was up there.
But he was brave enough to do it, though, man. Kudos to him for getting up there, even though he was.
He got a bottle of wine as well.
He certainly did.
Didn't he?
But not sure how legal that is. He was about 14. But yeah, so basically, then I think it was me next, wasn't it? I went up. And I've got to tell you, man, I've never been more terrified in my whole life, because I've done quite a lot of stuff where, you know, public speaking and all that kind of stuff. No problem talking in front of a crowd or anything like that. But I'm sitting up there opposite Gareth, and he hands me the microphone, and my hand was shaking. It really was. Like, I was like keeping that mic, and I'm looking out, and I see all these like Bond legends sitting in the front row staring at me, and it was like, right, got to see how much you know about Bond now, right? What do you know? Answer these questions. And it was just like my mouth dried up. It was just my brain stopped working properly, and it was just I think I got 11 out of 20. I think that was my final score.
It's not bad at all, though.
But yeah, it's not bad. But like it was there were so many things. Obviously, like afterwards, you think, damn it, I knew that, but then you just couldn't get it out, you know. Because under the pressure. And then Brian went after me, and he beat me by 1 point, didn't he? Bless his heart. But so it went down to the wire. But you know, it went to the better man on the day. So I've kind of not. I think I've forgiven him. I'm not sure if I'm still harbouring a grudge or not. I don't know. I'll see how I feel next time I see him, I suppose.
But I mean, just the fact that both of you were up there in the whole room, because obviously there was a lot of the Bond alumni, but the rest of it was full of Bond fans, obviously. Yeah. So the fact that we had 2 of the JBR lot up there representing, I was really proud, man. Yeah. I was there with I was filming you guys. My heart was like,
I remember looking out
up and stuff.
I remember looking out during the quiz and seeing you like on your knee with the camera filming everything. Like you were like a proud dad watching his toddler doing something on his school play or something. You really were. But yeah, it was tough because there were so many questions that come in where you just do a mind blank. I remember Brian, like the thing is when you're watching somebody else do it, it's kind of like so obviously you know the answer and it's so easy, but you knowing what it's like to sit up there, you're just like, oh man, I know how that feels. But you got it. He got some rad prizes as well. Actually, Brian did. He got a good old bumper bag full of stuff, which is pretty cool. But I think the runner-ups got a bottle of wine each, so that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Superb. And just before we move on from this one, it's good we have to say the evening before as well, big thanks to Martin Mulder for organising. We have like the Saturday before Bond Stars, we go to Pinewood Hotel and have a big meal and a catch up with loads of the Bond sort of fraternity, so to speak. And that was another great one. Nikki Vandersel was there, so we got to catch up with her. Norman Monstall was there, obviously got to catch up with him and meet sort of some new Bond fans as well. So that was really cool. So just thought we'd do a quick shout out for that as well. Absolutely
good stuff indeed. So big shout out to Gareth and Andy for putting together Bond Stars. Big shout out to Martin for putting together the dinner the night before. Always a good thing. It's always nice, isn't it? Because time flies by, and I think it's nice, even if you're not going to Bond Stars, to show up for the fan dinner on the Friday anyway, because it's like it's like the first day back at school after the summer holiday, isn't it? You get to see all your mates again, and then you're just you're chatting about Bond and all the rest of it. It's wicked, but that was cool. Then talk to me about the following weekend, Chris. This was a good solid run of weekends, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable amount of bondage in that month. Yeah. So the next weekend, obviously, we had Casino Royale at the Royal Albert Hall. Now this was superb. So basically, we sort of parted our ways for the week, and when we met up, we basically again loads of the JBR lot were there. I think there was at least 30, 35, maybe even 40 plus of the listeners, probably even more. Some people sort of rocked up in their finest wear, finest threads.
That was the rule,
which was great. Totally. So we go. I basically ran from the hotel to outside the Royal Albert Hall. Aston Martin Db5 parked out front. Beautiful it was. Now this one, obviously it wasn't one from the film, but it is one that had been restored by Aston Martin itself. And I was speaking to the guy and he was saying it's worth like £1.3 million.
Whoa.
I was like, okay. Fair enough. Not bad. Not bad. And we met quite a few new people as well, wasn't there? There was Alex Robson and his Mrs. Sydney who joined us. And it was really funny as well because it was quality. So a few of us were in suits and dinner jackets, whatever. You were rocking the old white DJ
the white
with
dinner
the
jacket
red
with
carnation, of course, and Alex turned up and he had the exact same outfit on, didn't he?
Not only do we share the same bootmaker, we share the same tailor, obviously.
Well, there we go. And that was great. So we got a few nice photos of you guys. But there were loads of the JBR lot. So we went inside and had a couple of drinks. We got some really nice seats as well at the front arena, really close. Now, this one was a bit different. So it's not just seeing Casino Royale on the big screen. We had a live, full orchestra in front of us. And not only that, but there was a bit of a Q&A with a certain Mr. Arnold beforehand as well. So what did you think of that then, Tom?
Yeah, man. So there was I would imagine like a 20-minute sort of, it was meant to be a Q&A, but it actually sort of wasn't, was it? It was just like a sort of one-on-one sort of interview basically on stage, and which was cool. I'd love to get him on JBR at some point, man, because he's such he's a funny bloke. He's got a good sense of humour, and he's always a good laugh. But so we got to see David Arnold on stage just sort of talking about the score and all that kind of stuff. And I tell you what, at first, I must say I was a little bit disappointed because I thought when I bought the tickets that David Arnold would be conducting the orchestra. And I thought, that's like seeing John Barry at the end of Living Daylights conducting the orchestra. I want to see that, definitely. But then I heard afterwards that conducting is something he just doesn't do. But so, you've got this massive orchestra on stage sort of playing everything through. And it was tricky because on the one hand, I found myself watching the film and what a belter it is as well, and forgetting that the orchestra were even there because they were so bang on the money that it was like you sort of didn't even notice that there was a live orchestra there sometimes. And then I'd catch myself and I'd be like, shit, I need to watch the orchestra a bit. And then I'd sort of not watch the film a bit and I'd keep my eye on the orchestra and watch that. And then I'd keep sort of flitting back between the two. And it was so good. You sort of almost didn't know they were there in a strange way. But it was like, it felt like, I thought the first time you hear any Bond music, the three notes, was when he puts his dinner jacket on for the first time and he's checking himself out in the mirror and you hear it in the bass, right? But I heard it so much more in the live version. And I don't know whether I just not noticed it before or whether they maybe tweaked it a little bit for the live performance. I don't know. I feel like they would have stuck to, the black and white score, so to speak.
It's the same.
But I noticed that just those little three notes weaving in and out of the score so much more than I ever did watching the film or even just listening to the score. But it was wicked, man. In that setting, that massive Royal Albert Hall venue with all those people in it, so many people suited and booted, to see that experience was amazing. And I would definitely go again to see, I'd go again and see the same film with the same setup the very next day if I'd have had the tickets. But definitely. I think my favourite part, which was the coolest part, right, for me, right? You've got my favourite Bond scene of all time, which is obviously, who are you? Mr. White, we need to talk. I've done it in the wrong order, but you know what I'm saying. Crawling up the steps. Name's Bond, James Bond. Bond theme kicks in. Amazing, right? Yeah. I'm just getting... Every time I think about that scene, every time I talk about that scene, I get chills up my spine. But there it is with a live orchestra. I thought that's an amazing opportunity to see my favourite scene like that. Bang! Obviously, the Bond theme kicks in. Out of nowhere comes David Arnold. He's got his guitar out. There he is, down, 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 playing that sequence. And I was like, man... that is possibly the coolest thing he could have possibly ever done. And there it was, right there on stage. I don't know, because for 1 minute he wasn't there. And then the next minute he was just there, stood in the spotlight, rocking out the Bond song. And I thought, did he come up through the bottom of the stage or something? Because I don't even, 1 minute he was there, 1 minute he wasn't.
Well, this is it. I don't know either. And I'm sure I heard some people saying that he did. I don't know if he just sort of walked on from the side, but I'm sure I heard someone say that he might have sort of risen up from the floor.
Even if he didn't rise up through the floor, I'm choosing to believe that he did, because that would have made it. That would just be amazing. That's what I'm choosing to go with, even if it didn't actually happen. But yeah, man, there he is, rocking out the Bond theme on the guitar, and away you went. And of course, you have to stay to the end where it says James Bond will return, which we did. Yeah. So that was amazing. Rumour has it they're going to do it again at some point with Skyfall. Obviously, it won't be David Arnold that time, but apparently that's going to be the next Bond one that they do. But I feel like you could just rock those out every other weekend, and that you could fill out that Albert Hall. You could do Goldfinger, you could do Majesties, you could do the whole lot, really.
Yeah, I mean, if there is another one, I'm definitely going to go to it. It was just, the atmosphere is just incredible, wasn't it? It was so good. And I think everyone that I spoke to that went loved it as well. And I think, I mean, definitely, I think they said Skyfall for the next one, but yeah, I'd happily, any of the Bonds, like in that scenario, I'd watch, definitely. It's quality evening, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And and we got to meet, there's a few others, Don Ziedemann, who we met for the first time as well, so that was really nice. And Sean O'Hare, long-time JBR listener.
He was hardcore, wasn't he? He'd flown in that morning, and then he was watching the film and then flying back to Ireland, I think it was Dublin, that very same night. So I was like, damn, dude, that's impressive work.
Definitely, man, definitely. So, and then after that, then we went out for a couple of drinks as well. We went to the Queen's Arms pub and had a bite to eat there, which was really nice. And we meet obviously Alan J. Porter. That was nice to meet him and his wife Gillian, which was great. Mark Henderson and a few others as well. And then the next morning, you and I and some of the elite crew went to Bond in Motion. Now that was your first time, wasn't it, in Bond in Motion?
Yeah, well, first time in London. Obviously, we went to the Bewley version.
Oh yes, that's right.
Donkeys years ago. But the first time in London, which was cool. It was good fun. And then we bumped into a lot of the listeners there as well, didn't we? Which was all
Chris
good fun.
Rushworth and a few others as well, like that.
Of course, there were a bunch of vehicles that I hadn't seen before because they were pre. I think was it pre Skyfall that we went? Because I remember going there, and I think they were saying later this year you're going to see some of the vehicles from Skyfall. So this time I got to see some Skyfall and Spectre shenanigans going on as well, which was good fun.
There is one thing that you mentioned when we were there, which I think we should say, which is the only kind of disappointing side to it, is that the lighting in there could definitely be improved in terms of the way some of the vehicles are sort of shown or presented. I mean, some of it is great, but some of it, I think they could be a lot more creative with what they're doing. I don't know, what was your opinion on that?
Do you know what, that's exactly what I thought. Walking around that place, and of course it's always amazing to be, being able to reach out and touch some Bond iconic vehicles or whatever it is, but I feel, and the layout was wicked. I like the layout of the whole place and the way everything was kind of set up and stuff, but the lighting was just, all the cars, like most of them were just in shadow. You could barely sort of, like, for example, most of the cars you could literally get right up next to and peer through the window, and you couldn't really even make out the interiors or the dashboard or anything. And it's like, I want to see the gear stick with a red button on it. Do you know what I mean? And you just couldn't see it. And, if you lean back and you take a photo with your phone or whatever, most of the photos come out pretty rubbish because you can't really see it. Everything's so in darkness, which is a real shame. I don't know why that is, whether what the thought process behind that was, but the lighting's a bit off in there, but still definitely worth a visit. It's just it's wicked walking around with Bond music playing and all the cars and stuff and all the vehicles laid out, Bartho sub and everything all just sitting there in the corner. But that's my one sort of bit of constructive feedback. Turn the bloody lights up.
Did you have a favourite vehicle or prop that you saw that morning?
I think it's a tough one. I do like I like some of the smaller things. Like you remember, there's that Thunderball display, and you got the sand with all the the rebreather and stuff, and then there's the bit from You Only Live Twice when he's sort of like in that sealed bag in the torpedo before he comes on. It's not the sealed bag in the torpedo tube, where he's he's just had his funeral basically, and he's brought on board, and the little breathing apparatus from that. I kind of like those things. Obviously seeing the DB5 sitting there is always amazing. It was just all good, man. I don't think there was any particular one thing that stands out for me. What about you? Have you got a favourite?
Well, out of the small things, I really like the Octopussy reverse jacket. The one from the pre-titles where he's got sort of like this farmer tweed jacket, and then it's the army colonel, the Colonel Toro on the other side. I just thought the way that was displayed was really cool. I like that. But I mean, there's loads of good stuff there, isn't there? Loads of good stuff.
Speaking of which, something I forgot to mention, when I was over in Barcelona a few weeks back, we went out to a little tapas restaurant, just to completely segue, because you mentioned Octopussy, and we ordered some little squiddy dishes. And the waiter comes over, sticks it on the middle of the table, and he goes, Octopussy 007. And I was like, did I just hear that correctly? And I was like, you're a dude. I like you. Good stuff. But there you go. I thought you'd enjoy that. But
did he know that you were into Bond as
well?
No,
not at all. Not at all. Just that's what I guess that's what he says to everybody when he delivers a bit of squid. Brilliant. But that was a nice little touch. But
I like that.
But yeah, man, Bond in Motion. That was cool. That was just before we all parted ways. We met a few other listeners there, didn't we? We do need to give a shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Bootle, don't we?
Definitely, Gary and Joe Mitchell, they were great. they were just hilarious.
Absolutely, they do a mean version of Underneath the Mango Tree, which I did capture on camera. Which, if I have their permission, I'll stick that up on Facebook. But that was a very drunken rendition from the night before. But they showed up to Bond in Motion too, as did good old Chris Ettle, good old David West, good old Jason Carr, and Dazzy Nobbs, of course. And we met Richard Knox and Chris Rushworth while we were just about to leave as well. So that was pretty cool. Hello to everybody.
Yeah. Definitely cracking day that was. And then you basically went back on your travels after that, didn't you? You only had a few more days.
That's where we parted ways. But you went on even further after that. You had another sort of Bondian one. Well, I'd say wonderful. I feel like that's the wrong word to use. It's like, explain what happened.
Okay, so basically, the week after I was back at Pinewood. Thanks to Warren Ringham, cued the music. Basically, it was for the memorial of Sir Roger and the unveiling of the new stage at Pinewood, the new Roger Moore stage, which is obviously fantastic. The day was brilliant, but it's a mix of emotions, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's obviously you are mourning in one respect, and it is a sad thing, but then you're also sort of celebrating the life of one of the best, guys that's ever been on this planet in terms of who we're talking about. So it was a mix, definitely, but it was fantastic. So I basically went along with Warren, helped sort of set stuff up as much as I could anyway.
He smuggled you in as a crew member, didn't he? As a Cue the Music crew member. Now, listen,
so I had my little Cue the Music t-shirt.
I've got a question for you, right? I've got a question for you.
All right.
I don't think you'll be offended if I say you're not the most musically inclined man in the world.
I mean,
some of the JBR people have heard you sing in the past and all that kind of stuff. Now, when you were, did Warren make you, lift some stuff and actually do some hard work?
I definitely I put a fair shift in, I'd say,
because I was worried because I thought was going to happen was I thought it was going to be like Bond in You Only Live Twice when he gets into the space rocket with his air conditioner and just putting stuff in the wrong place and all the rest of it. But it went well, did it? It went all right.
I think so, yeah. There's a bit of rewiring that suddenly, they cut out halfway through. No, it went well, man. It went well.
Good.
It was quite cool. So basically, we obviously were there quite early. Just to sort of set everything up and what have you, and then we had a bite to eat and stuff like that, and it's really strange, man. As soon as sort of the main VIP guests sort of started to arrive, you're sort of walking through a corridor and suddenly brushing shoulders, and there's Michael Caine just like walking past, like bloody hell, which is obviously you can't be sort of a bit crazy about it, but that was really good. And so they started to turn up. Maddie was there, Maddie Smith, so I had a nice chat and catch up with her, which was really good. Barbara and Michael rocked up.
Very nice. Did she mention me at all?
She did, yes. She
Very
said
nice.
Next Thursday at 2:00, if that's okay.
Sweet. I'll put that in my calendar. Wicked.
Okay, great. So they were obviously there. David Williams was there. Joan Collins, all these sort of big Hollywood players and stuff like that. But it was really nice. So basically, Gareth organised this pretty much on his own, and what a job he did as well. So he was sort of kind of like the compere, I suppose you'd say, and sort of introduce people. Her Royal Highness, the Countess Sophie of Wessex, was there, so she sort of did the unveiling of the studio, which was great.
Very nice.
And all the sort of big players did a speech. Sir Michael Caine's was very emotional, very good.
They were good mates, weren't they, them two?
Yeah, really, really good mates. And Joan Collins as well. Hers was really funny, which was great. Michael and Barbara went up. Barbara didn't say anything. Michael said a few words, obviously, about Sir Roger, about Bond and UNICEF and stuff like that. There was a few montages played from different stages of his life. Cue the Music did a couple of songs, which is great. So they did For Your Eyes Only and All Time High over a montage, and it imagine if you were Warren. Okay, so think of these people that you've got in front of you.
Yeah.
Barbara and Michael are there. Barbara and Michael, and all these Bonds sort of related and what have you. And you want it to go well and sound well, and it really did go down a treat. And and like you could tell he was nervous as hell.
You would be though, wouldn't you?
Obviously,
I'm surprised he wasn't trumpeting out of the other end than he usually trumpets, because I feel like most of us would be.
I think he probably might have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
But afterwards, it was great. So they did a couple of songs. There was a bit more. David Williams said a bit about UNICEF. Then there was a final reel where we heard Sir Roger's voice reciting a poem over a few more pictures. Really moving, not many dry eyes after that. And then so Roger Moore's family, his sons and daughter was there, and they sort of thanked everyone for coming. And then to finish off, Cue the Music played Bond 77, which I thought was brilliant.
Very nice.
It was absolutely banging. And basically, people were meant to get up and walk out, but they just stood up and just started listening and just wanted to keep listening.
Nice.
So I think Bond 77 was kind of played on loop for a little bit to keep everyone happy, which was cool. And then we went outside to the champagne reception outside. Lots of bottles of Bolly, which was great.
Very nice.
We sort of got changed into our DJs and stuff like that. Went outside, and then we started sort of, having a bit of a chat to some of those. Mate, so many cool people. So I met Miska and Griska, David and Tony Meyer, and it was so cool to have a chat, and really, really nice guys as well, like lovely guys.
Yeah.
So I had a good long chat with them. Stephen Burkhoff was there, General Orloff.
Did you manage to get to chat to him? Did you speak to Orloff?
No, I didn't actually. No, I only saw him as he was leaving, unfortunately, so I couldn't get to chance to him. Had a chat to Lynn Holly Johnson, who plays BB Doll, Gloria
Very
Hendry,
nice.
who plays Rosie Carver, various other bits and pieces. David Williams, had a chat to him, and a few other people as well. So, I mean, it was a really, really good day, and it just went off sort of so smoothly. It really did.
That's what you want then. It sounds like a great way to send off the great man. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like next year, when the next Bond Stars event, if we're lucky enough to go and stuff, being able to see his name up there on the stage is going to be quite a moving moment for sure.
That was quite a funny thing as well. So after it kind of finished, me and Wazza, we sort of obviously everyone sort of packed stuff away, and we went on a bit of a mission to get this to go to the studio, because we weren't 100% sure where it was. So we went on a bit of a drive around Pinewood, and we just couldn't see it. We're like, what's going on? But it's not. Pinewood's now kind of split into two sections. So the main section around Heatherden Hall, around the hall, and like all the different stages close to it.
Yeah.
You have to go out of the main entrance, turn left, you go up the road, and there's a roundabout, and then there's a whole other part of Pinewood, and that's where they're expanding. So I think they already had like 3 or 4 different sound stages there, and the biggest one, it's the second biggest stage, only to the 007 stage.
Nice.
And it had the Roger Moore stage on it.
Sweet.
So we got to see it in the distance. We asked the security if we could go in, and they were like, "Well, no, but you can take photos from here." And we're like, "All right, thanks." So it was getting a bit dark, and we couldn't quite get a good photo, but at least we saw it, so we know where it is, and just then went back with huge smiles on our faces after a brilliant day.
So that was a full month of Bond weekends for you. 4 weekends in a row of maximum bondage, man. That's amazing. I managed to jump in for 2 of them, obviously, but it doesn't really get much better than that, does it?
It doesn't. No, I mean, it's the sort of thing where every weekend you just. It just felt a bit unreal, a bit sort of surreal, I guess, but in a really nice way. And then obviously after that, just had a bit of a break when we've both done our travels, and now coming back to it again. It's been really cool, man. It's been a great couple of months, I think. Absolutely
good stuff. Well, obviously JBR is back in action right now, so obviously we'll be coming in your ears every couple of weeks as per usual. Hey. And I like that joke too much. I need to use it more, but it's too powerful to use all the time, Okay. So we'll obviously keep you going in the run-up to Bond 25. So obviously today was all about, having a little bit of a catch-up and all that kind of stuff, and just getting the wheels turning again, and then we'll be back as usual in 2 weeks with our part 2 of the trailers episode, to put that to bed before we do a Music of Bond episode. So, Chris, sounds perfect. Shall we find out what the answer to the trivia question of the day is, courtesy of Mr. Edgar Chaput? Okay, let's have a listen to the question. We'll say what we think, and then see if we're right. Thank you. I was just about to play the answer without thinking about that, so I'm glad you're paying attention. Good stuff. Here we go. Okay.
what is the Canadian connection to The Spy Who Loved Me, the film?
Okay, then. So, what do you think the Canadian connection to The Spy Who Loved Me is, Chris? What are your thoughts?
My initial thought is it's something to do. In fact, I've got two things that it could be, and they both relate to a location. Mine
relates to a location as well. I'm going to say what mine is, and then I want to know what your other one is. So my one is the shooting of the famous ski jump was in Canada. Oh, nice. Do you know whereabouts in Canada? No. Okay. So that was mine as well. It was in Mount Asgard. Now, I tell you what, Google Mount Asgard. Do you want me to do it right now? Now, yeah. Because I will, Chris. I will Google it. Because when you look at it, it's basically two massive columns. There's a flat plane of snow with these two massive columns. I see them. With little bits of snow on the top. And obviously, Rick Sylvester skied off one of those. Oh, I see. Yeah. When you see it from that aspect, it's really interesting, isn't it? Holy shit, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, like, how perfect is that? I kind of, looking at it from this angle, I can see the bit, which I imagine is the bit that he skied off. And it doesn't look anything like mate, you'd that would be, from the film. I suppose that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like two big tubes of Pringles that are joined up with a bit in the middle, and they are flat topped. So I guess that makes this, because it's almost like going off a cliff, isn't it? It's not like your normal mountain where it would be more of a sloping kind of. So I guess from a safety perspective, that kind of makes sense as well. So that's interesting. It's pretty cool. I think all of our listeners should go and do that. Go and Google Mount Asgard, ASGARD, and have butchers, because that I can. There's one. Depending on what the snowfall would have been like at the time, but there's one particular angle where I'm like, I bet you that's the bit that he skied off. That's really interesting. Good work. Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. The only other sort of side thing relating to Canada was that particular, well, it does, and I mean that's obviously the answer, but the idea for that came from an advert for Canadian Club Whiskey. Did it? Which had Rick Sylvester in it, but he wasn't actually at Mount Asgard in that advert. It was kind of photoshopped equivalent of the day. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, it's a cool location. So I mean, at least I think that we're right. Should we have a listen to Edgar and see what he says? Let's do it.
Hello, James Bond Radio, Tom, Chris. This is Edgar Chaput in Montreal Station C with the answer to the trivia question. Well, the answer is actually in the pre-title sequence, the now world-famous jump off the cliff where Bond opens up the Union Jack parachute. That was actually filmed on what's called Baffin Island, which is way up north. It's not even in a Canadian province. It's in a Canadian territory called Nunavut. Baffin Island, Nunavut. That is where the famous delightful jump was performed. So there you have it. Again, thanks for everything you guys do. It's a great show. Never miss an episode, and neither should the listeners. Take care, guys.
Very nice. So we did well this week, didn't we, Chris? We did well. Yes, we did. Good question as well, Edgar. Good question. Good stuff. Okay, then. So it's time for the Guess the Quote round. Bond. James Bond. Very nice. Very intense as well. The way you're gazing down the webcam at me, man, it makes me feel a little bit unusual. But yes, it's the Guess the Quote round where one of us poses a quote and the other one has to guess it. Now, obviously, you posed your quote last time, didn't you, Chris? So it's been a little while, obviously. We've had a little break. So would you like to repose your quote from last time? I certainly will. Okay, so my quote was, Jettison cocoon. I do like that. I do like that a lot. Jettison cocoon. So, what has a cocoon? What could that be from? I feel like it has to be some sort of space rocket. I think it's some sort of vehicle, certainly. Shit. Then I'm barking up the wrong tree already. Jettison cocoon. What? Yes. Oh, hold on. What has a cocoon? Oh, I know what it is. No, I don't.
Yes.
Do I? Do I know what it is? Is it Thunderball?
Yes, it is.
I know what it is. Yes, that of course is the Disco Volante, isn't it? When it jettisons the rear cocoon bit and goes really fast at the end. Very nice.
Super. Do you know who says it?
Jettison cocoon. Is it Largo?
It is Largo.
Yeah.
Well done, mate.
Very nice.
One.
All
nice
right,
one.
cool. I got there.
Cool.
Nice. I like those last minute ones where it just scoops into my brain at the last minute. Very nice. Okay. I've got a quote for you this time. You ready for it?
I am indeed. Far away.
But Bond is dead. I'm going to do it for you one more time.
Oh.
But Bond is dead.
Oh.
Do you know who that is?
Okay. There's one person that I think it definitely could be, but then maybe there's others out there as well. That's good. I like it.
All right, very nice. We will, of course,
got me thinking.
Find out the answer to that next time. Now, last time we had a listener quote. I've been hassling Simon Hunter on Twitter to get involved more with the voicemails and stuff like that. And obviously, he got stuck in last time and he sent us a listener quote. So again, it's been a while. So should we have a reminder of Simon's quote from last time?
Definitely.
Let's do
have
it.
a listen.
Hey, yo, JLA, Nico Fatong.
Okay, Chris.
Oof.
Now, I'm fairly sure I know what region of the world this one comes from, right?
Yeah.
Excellent performance there from Simon Hunter, as always.
Superb. Brilliant.
Now, have you got any leads? I think I'm leaning in one particular direction, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think like there's one person who I think it could be. I'm thinking
Does that
Southeast...
person have a mausoleum that he quite likes?
I think he might do, yes. That he might want to be put in.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it sounds quite high fattish.
It does, doesn't it? I can hear him saying that. I'm pretty sure if we're barking up the right tree. But I'm not sure exactly when he says it. I think, is it maybe after when Knick-Knack's about to spear Bond with his little trident? Does High Fat come out at that point and tell everybody off? And
no, because he says it in English, take Mr. Bond to school, doesn't he?
Before that, does he not go, and then take Mr. Bond to school?
Maybe. It's either that point or the point where he's talking to someone as Scaramanga's walking into the place before Scaramanga kills him. I think he's kind of speaking to someone about the business.
Yeah.
You know, Scaramanga rocks in.
Yeah.
I think it's either of those two scenes. I think.
All right. Okay. Interesting. So let's find out what the answer is and if we're indeed right.
That was indeed from the Man with the Golden Gun. Scaramanga walks in on High Fat, who's on the phone with the head of the dojo. He's giving him a right old bollocking for letting James Bond escape. How could he do such a thing?
Well, there we go. We were both right. You were righter than me, obviously, because you got the scene right as well. So very nice. Good stuff. I tell you what, I think Simon Hunter has a beautiful speaking voice, and I think he needs to get involved in the world of podcasting. First of all, it was Golden Boys back in the day, wasn't it, with his wonderful speaking voice? And then we had a few more, and I think Simon needs to join that group. Simon Hunter needs to get involved in some spoken word way, because that is a very eloquent voice he has there, don't you think?
Just as eloquent as saying spoken word way.
Yeah, unlike me. But there you go. Right, have we got a new listener quote this week?
We have indeed. Now, this is from a first-time caller. This quote is from Mr. Adam O'Connell. So should we have a listen to what Adam has to say?
Let's check it out.
Hello, Tom and Chris and the rest of the wider JBR family. This is Adam O'Connell here. Long time, first time, as they say. Long time, actually, so I figured it's about time I finally got involved in the show. So I have a listener quote for you, and that quote is, knock knock. So I'll do it for you again. Knock knock. There you go, best of luck with that, and thanks for all your brilliant work on the podcast.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Adam. Good to hear you've been a long-time listener and stepped up with a quote for the first time. Good stuff. Welcome to the JBR family, even if you have been around for a while. Now, that is a good listener quote, and I have a suspicion already. I think I think I'm leaning in the right direction with that. How about you? You got a sniff of the scent?
I think there's one that jumped into mind straight away. I'm just trying to think if there is another possibility, but I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's one we haven't had before, I don't think. So,
absolutely.
I was going to say, if it was, what's the next line? Would it be who's there?
That would be a good one, absolutely, yeah. But that's a different game. I like what you think. I was going to say, by the time we've been podcasting for getting on 4 years now, and do you think there's going to come a time when there's just no quotes left to be done? That they've all been covered.
Well, we've done the whole script.
We've just done everything, and then the new quotes will just be like, "Hi." And then we'll have to guess which character that is over many films.
Maybe.
Interesting. Yeah. Nice one, Adam. Good stuff. We'll find out the answer to that question
Adam.
next time, obviously. Good stuff. Nice to hear from you. Now, Chris, I don't know if you're aware, but it's time for something very special. Do you know what that thing is?
Ooh, go on, tell me.
It is time for...
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt and how did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in the Nivea? It's Tommy Trivia.
That's right, it's time for Tommy Trivia. Now, this is where Chris breaks out a card from the 007 Trivial Pursuit special deck and quizzes me upon it. I'm having flashbacks to the Bond Stars quiz now. I'm starting to break out in a bit of a sweat. I feel unusual around quizzes these days. I've got a bit of a phobia for it. So I tell you what, how many cards have we got left? Because we've been doing this one for a while. So I'm wondering how many more we got to go.
As long as you want, really.
Oh, yeah.
I've kind of just been putting them at the back of the pile. There's like a massive chunk of them.
Okay.
So if they start to, basically, it's going to go one of two ways. They're going to start to become really familiar, and you're going to nail every single answer.
That's a good point.
Yeah, or the listeners are going to go, we've had that one.
There we go. We'll just keep going.
So we'll just keep going and see what happens.
Very nice.
So this time, Tom, are you ready?
I am.
We are going to start with crew and behind the scenes.
Okay.
So The Living Daylights was the last Bond film that which composer scored?
He has your initials, JB. John Barry.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. Okay, on to cast and characters. Now, Mr. Tom Sears, who plays Bibi Dahl?
She obviously came up earlier in today's episode.
She certainly did.
And, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. I know this. It's something Johnson, isn't it?
It is.
What's the first name? Oh, for God's sake.
I'll give you a clue. It's like a double barrel first name type thing.
Oh God. I know this woman's name. Of course I do.
It's T. Johnson.
Very nice.
We'll come back.
Yeah,
we'll come back to that. But let's come back to that. Okay, the next one is the films. What is Operation Grand Slam?
That is Goldfinger's plan to raid Fort Knox, but not to steal anything.
And so, what is he going to do?
He's going to irradiate the gold with a nuclear weapon.
I love it. In fact, I'd love to see what it says. Goldfinger's plot to irradiate the gold in Fort Knox.
Very nice.
Superb. Okay, on to vehicles. How does Bond arrive in North Korea in your favourite film?
Lynn Holly Johnson. There it is. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to have to repose that last question to me now because I totally wasn't listening to it. Go on.
That was amazing. Okay, so you got John Barry, you got Lynn Holly Johnson, and you got Operation Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So, question 4 on the vehicles. How does Bond arrive in North Korea in Die Another Day? So what mode of transport, basically?
My favourite mode of transport. Which is how I get to and from the shops each day when I need to go grocery shopping. Because that's what you do. You surf.
You surf everywhere. It is indeed a surfboard. That is the... in fact, that's the number one form of transport. It's taken over car and flight.
So I hear.
And bicycle.
Bond's always been ahead of his time.
Yeah. So the only thing that it's not quite as high up is Crocodile Submarine. There's so many of them around.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this part of the world. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Okay, so 2 questions to go. You are rocking it at the moment. This is gadgets and weapons. Who shoots Le Chiffre?
That would be Mr. White.
Yes, Mr. height. It is indeed, Mr. Height. Superb. Right, Tommy, this is it. One more.
Pressure's on.
For 6 out of 6, 100%. Okay. Now, this one is locations. Are you ready?
Yes.
In which city does Lazar, who makes Scaramanga's golden bullets, work? In which city? Come on, you can do this, Tommy.
The way you're saying city is so obviously, I think it's Macau. Is it Macau?
Yes,
Very
it is
nice.
Macau.
Wicked.
Amazing stuff there. 6 out of 6, 100%.
Cool. You see, I was worried there. I was like, is it Kowloon? Does that count as a city or not? I don't know. But yeah, it's Macau. Isn't it? Nice.
Superb, man.
I did well this week.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks,
proud
man.
of you. I'm as proud as you as I was when you were rocking it in front of everyone.
If only I could have performed that well on the big day. But there we go. Yeah. I don't think Gareth would have appreciated Leighton Holly Johnson in the middle of nowhere. But there you go.
Cool. Okay, so the next round, Tom, what have we got up next?
It's time for... It's the music cue. That's right, it's time for Guess the Music Cue. Now this, for the uninitiated, is where Chris takes a little snippet from a Bond score and we have to guess what the film is and what scene it is as well. So obviously we had one last time again, so should we have a little reminder of what that one was first?
Well, let's do it.
That, my friend, is a beauty. Yes. I love it. I see the face of a particular Bond looking amazing. I see everything there. I think it's great. Immediately comes into my brain. Do you want me to hear what do you want to hear what I think it is?
Yeah, I do. Yes, please.
That has to be Bondola across St Mark's Square in Venice.
It is indeed superb.
Very nice.
Do you know? Can you think of a particular thing that might be on the screen during that piece of music? Do you want me to give you a clue?
A particular thing that might be on the screen. In my mind, I was just thinking of Roger looking really smug and cool.
I wonder if this helps you. Apologies to audio-only listeners, but I wonder if this helps you.
There it is. that's obviously the double take pigeon. Lovely.
It is indeed.
Very nice.
Superb.
Good
Excellent.
stuff.
Okay, so I have a new one for you this week. Now, this one, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to get the exact scene. I think the film you're going to nail straight away. Very difficult to get the exact scene, but yeah, I think it's a cool piece of music. So,
all right,
should we have a listen?
Let's do it. Right, I know what film that is.
I knew you'd know.
I know what film that is. Right.
Yeah.
And I have a strong suspicion I know what scene that is as well, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'm not... yeah, I think I'm confident with that, actually. Yeah.
Okay, wicked. All right, we'll go with that then for next time. It might be a case that particular piece might be on more than one part of the film, but I'm hoping not. But,
let's hope not. Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll see.
All right.
Excellent.
Good stuff. So next up, Chris, I know you're very excited for this bit, as am I. It's time for What's the Next Line? That was very good.
I don't know what it was.
I see you've gone full automatic this week. It's good. It's usually a pistol, but it was like you were the granny in Goldfinger there. It was brilliant.
Yeah, but this is it. That's
okay, so what's the next line is a game that's a bit like Guess the Quote, but instead of saying, oh, that's James Bond in Goldfinger, this time the answer is the next line that happens in the film. So, are you ready, Chris?
Yes.
If you can get this one straight out of the gate, I'm confident you'll get this one right. But if you can get this one straight out of the gate without me having to perform it a second time, I'll be very impressed, right? Because I feel like it's going to take just a couple of seconds of brain jiggering to get it, okay? Are you ready for it?
I'll try.
Here it comes. Chris Wright, what is the next line? Oh, spare me this sentimental rubbish. He knew the risks.
Oh, I know. I think I know the line before that rather than after it. Oh, wait.
I can see your brain doing the work.
No, I've got the line before that. No, okay. So the line after that is okay. Oh shit. Okay, 2 seconds. Right.
This is always the great part for the listeners, where they sit and listen to one of us think about what the answer might be.
Sorry, listeners. This is pretty bad. Okay, fuck it. Okay. I thought I had it. 2 seconds.
Right,
you keep them entertained for like 5 seconds. Tom.
Okay, so just to throw out some clues there, we are sort of we may or may not be covering this film around about the soon-ish, or we might have already covered it. It's going to be one of 2 films from a particular person that we'll be covering. So that'll give you a little bit of a clue of what film we might be talking about. But what we're interested in is the next line. And I know several Bond JBR family listeners are going to be shouting at you down their earphones today because they're going to know what this line is.
But the thing is, this is the film that I've watched the least. I haven't watched this one since we started.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen most of the others since we started. So I haven't seen this one for like over 3 years now, which is really frustrating because I really want to watch it. Okay, so the line before, can I just say the line before?
Give me the line before.
Something like,
I tell you what.
Is it something like...
Let's perform it. So you give me the line before, I'll give you my line, and then see if it just flows. Because sometimes they jump in there at the last minute. So come on, give it to me. Give me your first line.
Is it something like lighters? Is it something like lighters put his life on the line for me many times, or something like that? Shit. No.
Okay, that's good. And then I'm going to say, "Oh, spare me this sentimental rubbish. He knew the risks."
Oh fuck!
I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, something like...
Come on, you got to give it to me now, or it's over.
No, it's got to be over. Sorry, I know kind of what it is, but not the answer.
Ding! The gong has sounded. Okay, so here it is. I want you to give me the line now, and we'll trade places. Give me the line.
Okay. Spare me the sentimental rubbish, 007. He knew the risks.
And his wife.
Oh!
There it is.
Oh man. I need to watch License to Kill now, as in right now.
Yeah,
as soon as we finish
this. You're allowed to because we're going to be reviewing it soon. So there's that.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's very true. It's a good one, that one.
It was a good one, wasn't it? Yeah, good stuff. Right. It's one of those, as soon as you hear it, you know it, don't you? That's the tricky bit. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
So, last game of the day, Chris, before we wrap up, it's time for
Bond Girl Battle.
Oh, James.
Yes, well, you put your clothes on and I'll buy you an ice cream.
Very nice. Good stuff. Now, yes, so for any uninitiated, this is where we pull out the Bond girl top trumps from a gigantic Moonraker-style hat and we pit them against each other in a battle royale. So, Chris, have you got your hand in the pot?
I have. Tell me when.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. And again.
Stop.
Okay. What are you laughing at?
You just look like you're really concentrating hard on that. It's good.
Well, I was. Okay, so first up we have, tough cookie. We have Wei Lin.
There she is. Goodness me.
Tomorrow Never Dies. Look at that. In her leather-clad catsuit.
Indeed.
Up against her we have people who want to stay alive. Play it safe. We have Tracy DiVincenzo.
Oh my goodness me. There she is.
Teresa
Good
Bond.
Lord.
So tough rounds now. Okay,
right.
So what do we think?
Where do we even begin? So, okay, let's talk about physical attributes. That's the wrong way. Let's talk about physical skills. We've moved past that now, Chris, haven't we? We've moved past that.
We've tried.
So physical skills. Let's start with Wei Lin. Yes. She's obviously Bond's opposite number, isn't she? She's highly trained. She's a super spy. She's obviously highly skilled. She's good with weapons. She's good with hand-to-hand combat. In fact, exceptionally good with hand-to-hand combat. Kick-ass martial artist, as you say. She rocks a leather catsuit, absolutely. She has those little things sort of that she shoots from her wrists, a bit like Spider-Man, so she
The
can
handcuff type thing.
Yeah, so she can walk up walls, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
And all the rest of it. And so she's a tough cookie. She's a strong contender. What are your thoughts on Weilin?
Clever as well. She's obviously intelligent to be an agent as well. She wants peace for the world, so she's against General Chang, which is good. But yeah, I mean, she's a kick-ass. I mean, in terms of martial arts, she's incredible. Good with a gun as well. She does that shot on the boat, like pinpoint accurate shot. So she's good with that. She's got all of her gadgets as well. So she's really tough to sort of. In a hand-to-hand, even though Tracy is a tough cookie, in a hand-to-hand, I think Weilin would have to come out on top.
Yeah.
But then let's have a look at Tracy, because she's got a lot of really good attributes as well.
Indeed. So Tracy, she's well-hard. She's well-hard in a different way. She's obviously not trained in martial arts. She's well-hard in the sense that she just gets stuck in, doesn't she? She doesn't give a shit. She just breaks a bottle and waves it in your face and all that kind of stuff. And, she's good behind the wheel, that's for sure. Yep. There are many, many things about Tracy, but I would say the most important thing is she is, to date, the only woman who has made Bond settle down and get married. So there is a power in that, all of its own category, I think. Yeah. Now, listen, if we were to stick them in a ring together and it was like, right, let's have a fight, I think it would be obvious who would win. Weilin would come out on top straight away.
But I don't know about straight away. I think she would, but I think... Tracy's a survivor. She, think of her taking on Gunter, who's a big lad and stuff like that. And I think she just keep going. She's got an inner fire that doesn't die unless she dies.
That's a good point. I feel like she would give it a good go, but I think ultimately, physically, she would be bested by Weilin. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, the other thing is in terms of classic Bond girlness, and I feel like Weilin doesn't go down as a classic Bond girl. Do you know what I mean? I think if you ask the average person on the street who Weilin was, they wouldn't have a clue. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I would say casual Bond fans as well, they might have to go, which one was she in? Tomorrow Never Dies. And I feel like, but maybe, I mean, on the other side of that coin, if you said who's Tracy DiVincenzo, the average person on the street probably wouldn't know who that is either. But amongst Bond fans, there's not a Bond fan on the planet who doesn't know who Tracy DiVincenzo is. Now, I feel like if we said Weilin wins this, I feel like there would be uproar amongst the Bond fan community, because Tracy is obviously the better Bond girl in the grand scheme of things. What are your thoughts on that particular subject? Do you think that's fair?
Well, I think if it was just battle related, like we said, Weilin, but I know the rules for this thing keep changing, but I think ultimately we've got to look at every aspect, and Tracy holds her own in that aspect as well. But not only that, if you think about just the drive of her character, like you're saying, she's good behind the wheel, she can ski, she can ice skate, she's just a tougher girl.
And do you know what? I think because we did struggle with this, didn't we? When we first started the Bond Girls category, is we did let our loins get a little too involved to begin with. We thought this isn't fair. We need to think about strength of character and all this kind of stuff, because it's tricky for a boy, isn't it? When you see beautiful Bond girls in bikinis and all that kind of stuff, it's difficult to sort of think straight, isn't it? And keep your brain on higher things, so to speak. I think a good measurement stick would be impact.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Good.
Impact
Definitely.
as a character. So, for example, you could look at Honey Rider and say, goodness me, that character, while she might not have been the cleverest in the world, she might not have been the most physically capable in the world, God damn it, did she have an impact on the world? Do you know what I'm saying? And that has a value all of itself as well. So I feel like, in terms of impact, Tracy is 1,000 leagues above Weilin. What do you think?
100%, yeah, no, without a doubt, definitely. She definitely deserves to go through. I think Weilin puts up a good fight in that particular sort of arena, but aside from that, I think Tracy's got so many other sort of attributes that I think definitely have to put her through to the next round.
Absolutely.
What do you reckon?
Sounds good to me. I fully support that. It's time for Tracy to go through to the next one. There she is. Good stuff. Congratulations to Tracy.
Well done, Tracy. So she joins Vesper Lind in the next round, and we say goodbye to Wayland.
Good stuff.
There we go.
Excellent. So what are we in now? So we're in round 3 of Bongo Battle, aren't we?
So we've done Heat 1 and Heat 2 of round 3, and after this, then we go into the semi-finals and then the final.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. It's been a lot of fun this week. It's been good to catch up. I found myself getting excited before we sat down to record, Chris, because I found myself missing JBR while we were away. We were both away traveling and doing cool things, but at the same time, it's like you need to release the valve every so often, and as all gentlemen do. Let's face it. And here we are. So we finally released our valves together. On the internet for everybody to see and listen to, which is lovely.
And consume.
And indeed. Oh, mate. That was lovely. Anyway, right. So we're coming back in 2 weeks as per usual with another podcast. What should we do? Should we conclude the trailers?
We've got 2 options, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've either got trailers of Bond Part 2, or we've got our next music episode, which will be on Her Majesty's Secret Service soundtrack. To be in my either or is good with me, so I'm down with whatever you're up for doing. We could leave it as a surprise, and then
should we? I tell you what, fuck it. Let's do the trailers of Bond Part 2. Let's conclude that, and then we'll come back after that with the music of Bond on Her Majesty's, which will also obviously see the return of Music of Bond co-host John Williams as well, which is all very exciting.
Indeed. Yeah, it would be great to speak to John as well. And after that, that's pretty much then Boxing Day, I think.
Good Lord.
That's a Boxing Day bumper quiz for 2017, which we'll have to start thinking about.
We're going to have to start thinking about those questions. Good stuff. Absolutely. So we will see you in a couple of weeks. It feels good to be back. Good stuff. It's good to see everybody keeping the flame alive on the Facebook page and stuff while we've been away. But we're back, and we're going to be here every 2 weeks as per usual from now on. So good stuff. Here's to a wonderful couple of weeks until we'll see you then. My name's Tom Sears.
My name's Chris Wright. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time, everyone.
Absolutely. JBR will return. We'll see you then.
Bye.